Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to a very special edition of the movie review series. And today I'm going to be talking about the newest installment for the SSU, which stands for Sony's Spider Man universe. And that is Madam Web, which I have just finished watching at the cinema. Oh boy. Oh god. Where do I start with this one? Oh my goodness. This film, in a nutshell, was absolutely terrible. I mean, awful beyond words. Now, whenever I go to see a movie and I usually hear negative feedback, whether it's from reviewers, YouTubers, critics, social media, I usually try to give these things a chance. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Just because you have an opinion doesn't necessarily mean you're always right, but I like to try and give these things a chance. So, if you asked me, out of all of the Spider Man characters you would like to see have a solo movie, I can guarantee you Madam Web would not be one of them. And that's no disrespect to the character, but I just don't think Madam Web was a strong enough character for her own movie. But hey ho, it's Sony. Sony have more money than I have, and they decided to go ahead with this project. I still think it was a complete mistake, but hey, I don't make the rules here, I don't make the decisions, but it is what it is. Now, when I think of Madam Web, I think of the old lady with long white hair and the dark red glasses who sits on the chair, from the Spider Man 90s animated series or from the comic books. Yeah, we didn't get that in this movie. So I decided I would go and see Madam Web and decide for myself what I thought of this movie. First of all, I was the only person in the entire cinema who saw this movie. Shame on me. Everybody else went to see Bob Marley, but I decided to go and see Madam Web. And I was the only person in the entire room. Very lonely. Before I continue, shout out to one of my main guys, Superwise, who endured watching this movie. I feel your pain, brother. I know exactly how you felt when you watched this. It was torture beyond words. Poor guy. Now I know how he feels. Now I know how you really feel. Shout out to you, Superwise. Love you. Anyway, moving on. So, when they announced that Dakota Johnson, yes, Dakota Johnson from 50 Shades, yes, that Dakota Johnson, was going to play Madam Web, my initial reaction was, okay, she's way too young. Madam Web is supposed to be very, very old, at least over 1,000 years old. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this is a prequel. Maybe this is Madam Web telling her story about how she got her powers, and then in the present, we'll see her as the Madam Web we know. No, we didn't get that. We didn't get any of that. In fact, this movie didn't even try to be a Marvel movie. It was just Dakota Johnson walking around New York, or Queens, if you will, looking good. And don't get me wrong, she looked phenomenal. She looked amazing. But that's not enough, you know? Yes, you want your lead to look great. You want your lead to look the part, but it's not enough. And the only thing I kept saying to myself while I was watching this movie was, damn, Dakota Johnson has awesome hair. That's not really something you want to say in a comic book movie. He or she's got amazing hair. Oh, God. This movie was a real chore to get through. It really was. It started off really slow. It took a long time for anything to happen. And, oh, God, it's just really, really bad. And it's one of those things, it's not going to be looked back upon as one of the best comic book movies of all time. I think it's going to be going down as one of the worst I have ever seen. And the thing is, you see, as bad as Morbius was, at least Morbius they tried. You know, at least they tried. And Morbius had powers. There was kind of a story there, and you had something to get your teeth into. No pun intended. Madam Web had nothing I wanted to get my teeth into, except maybe Dakota Johnson, but that's another story for another time. But still, oh my god, this movie had nothing going for it. It was almost like it was trying to figure out what it wanted to be. Did this want to be an origin story? Was this going to be deja vu? Because there was moments like that, you know, involving deja vu. Have we been here before? Sort of story, and that's what they were kind of going for with Madam Web. Oh god, I just really didn't get into this movie. And usually with me, I always try to give things a chance, as I mentioned already. But yeah, I just didn't care for this movie one bit. So the cast we've got is Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney, Isabella Merced, Celeste O'Connor, Tahar Rahim, Mike Epps, Emma Roberts, who is the niece of Julia Roberts, for those who don't know, and Adam Scott. Oh, oh my God. This movie was so bad. Anyway, we get a little flashback back to 1973. We see Ekiskill Sims and Constance Webb, who is heavily pregnant. They go to the jungles of Peru. They're looking for this rare spider which can heal people. And we see Sims goes completely rogue. He takes out everyone and he shoots Constance Webb and takes the spider. And we see this weird tribe attempt to save her life using the spider bite, and she dies while giving birth to a little baby girl who grows up to be Cassandra Webb. And then we fast forward to 2003, and Cassandra goes by the nickname Cassie, who lives in Queens, New York. Yes, that same Queens, New York, where Peter Parker resides in, who does not appear in this movie because we're not allowed to have nice things like that. And she works alongside Ben Parker. Yes, that's Ben Parker, Uncle Ben. And they're paramedics, they're out on a job. She has a near death experience after trying to save a driver who has a car crash that hangs off the side of the bridge, and she falls into the water and has this near death experience. And we see her awake and she starts experiencing these weird flashes and she's able to see into the future. This story just didn't make any sense. It was all over the place. It was clunky. There's just nothing remotely to get your teeth into. There was just nothing. Now, Sims, he has these visions of three young girls who grow up to be Spider Women, and that's Julia Cornwall, Anya Corazon, and Mattie Franklin. And he sees them in his visions as Spider Women attempting to kill him. Did we learn why? No, we did not. All we know is that they're destined to kill him, but we don't know why. And we see him, he develops this Spider Man like costume, and he attempts to go out of his way to kill these three young girls before they can kill him in the future. See, if you could have built that up as the main story, maybe that could have worked. Maybe Madam Web is the reason she brings these girls together. No, we didn't get any of that. And then we see Cassie get on the train, ironically enough, with these three girls who are destined to kill Sims. And we see him in a Spider Man like costume trying to take them down. Yeah, there was just nothing about this that really said to me, oh, this looks interesting. I just thought, oh my God. Please make sense. Please make sense. There was just nothing that made any sense whatsoever. And as the film went along, it just got progressively worse. And the final fight scene where Madam Web and the three girls took on Sims, it was just so anticlimactic. It just wasn't remotely good at all. And the worst part about this whole film is they didn't even try to give Dakota a costume. I mean, yes, we did get a Madam Web like costume at the end for about a couple of seconds, but they didn't even give her a costume in this one. All we saw was Cassie just walking around in jeans and a red leather jacket and her hair flowing all over the place, looking lovely. Oh boy. One thing we did get though is Webb lost her sight, which we all know is a big part of Madam Web's gimmick. She's blind, so that's why she wears the dark glasses. We do see her at the end wearing glasses, and she's in the wheelchair. So yeah, we got that. We see Mary Parker is heavily pregnant with Richard's child. We all know that's going to grow up to be Peter Parker. They didn't mention or reference Peter Parker, even though we all know it was Peter Parker. We did learn a little bit about the three girls and their backstories, which wasn't bad, but there was just nothing to get invested in this movie, none whatsoever. And yeah, oh god, yeah, this was definitely one of the worst movies I have ever seen in the comic book genre. And usually with comic book movies, even if they're not that great, there's always a little something that you can say, you know what, that wasn't too bad. That was okay. Oh, this scene was good. There was nothing about this that I remembered that stood out to me. There wasn't even a scene that made me laugh. And usually you always get a little chuckle, you know, a little scene where, oh, that was quite funny. No, there was just nothing about it whatsoever. I don't blame the cast. They did what they had to do. They performed to the best of their ability. But yeah, this was a movie that Sony had no business making whatsoever. I think the best thing they could do is fully relinquish the rights to Marvel Studios, let them handle the live action stuff, and they concentrate Sony on the animated stuff because they gave us two Spider Verse movies, which to me are the best animated movies I have ever seen. You know, Across the Spider Verse, which came out in 2023, that was, you know, my film of the year. It was so good. The live action stuff here with Sony, I'm not feeling it, not one bit. I just got the sense that Sony were just trying to fulfill a contract and just maybe throw a bucket of stuff on the wall and see what sticks. It just wasn't that good. We also got a scene where Webb went to Peru to get answers about what had happened to her mother, and we learn in a flashback that Webb suffered from a rare hereditary disease. And that's why she was looking for this rare spider to help heal her baby. And we see a grown up Cassie meets her younger version of her mum. That wasn't a bad scene, but yeah, not enough to make me care. But we got to see Cassie learning to master her powers, even though there wasn't really much to master. It was just about learning to see things before they actually happened. But yeah, there wasn't really enough going on there. I thought the Spider Tribe people were going to play a big part in this movie, but nothing, nothing from them at all. It was just ridiculous. And the whole thing with the rare spider, we didn't learn anything about what was so special about it, other than the fact that it's supposed to heal people. Yeah, nothing great here at all. So at the end, we see Webb in the full costume, and Matty, Anya, and Julia are in their full Spider Woman attire, and no post credit scene. Sorry. I sat and hoped for maybe a little scene that could set up for something. This film did not set up for anything, so I don't really understand what was the point in making this movie if you're not going to set up anything. At least with Morbius, we saw Adrian Toomes appear at the end, and they look like they're trying to set up something. We don't know what that's going to be, but at least they were trying. But this movie, yeah, there was just nothing. Nothing at all. Oh boy. So before I wrap this up, I am going to give my overall rating for Madam Web, and I'm going to be completely brutally honest here. I'm giving this 1 out of 10. There was just nothing about this movie whatsoever that I enjoyed. It was just absolutely bad, and there was nothing about it that wanted to give me a chance to care about it. There was just nothing at all that I enjoyed. It was just a real slog to get through. But, you don't really know until you watch these things. Sometimes these things can surprise you and prove you wrong. This movie proved exactly what everybody else said, and I had to go and see it for myself. It wasn't that good. It was absolutely terrible. One of the worst comic book movies I have ever seen in a very long time. And that's saying a lot, when you think about some of the really bad comic book movies we've had in the past. At least there was some things you could say, well, it was bad, but at least this bit was good. There was nothing about this movie that was good whatsoever. And the very fact that they didn't set up for a sequel says to me that they're pretty much done and they're going to move on to something else, which I think for the most part is probably for the best. But we'll see, really. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on Madam Web? Did you enjoy it or did you not? Would you like to see a sequel to this, or would you just prefer if they just left it alone with one movie only? Do you think Dakota Johnson did a good job as Madam Web, or would you have cast someone else in the lead role? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the movie review series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.